Last month, we watched Mike Carmen show a commanding lead over the field after round 2 at the 2018 New Jersey State Championships, recording birdies through over half the round. Will Mike have what it takes to keep it up at the much more wooded Stafford Woods Disc Golf Course? Stay tuned as Disc Golf Monthly starts now. Welcome to this month's edition of Disc Golf Monthly, where we are covering Day 2 at the 2018 New Jersey State Championships in Voorhees, New Jersey at the Stafford Woods Disc Golf Course. The Stafford Woods course is much different than the Thompson Park course that we were at last month, as it's much more wooded with tight fairways on almost every hole. This layout also features some out-of-bounds territory on the open holes, so this course has some unique challenges that we did not see last month at Thompson Park. We have the results from round 3 and are getting ready to begin round 4. Let's take a quick look at the group of 4 players we'll be seeing in round 4. Leading in first place with a 165 from Ottsville, PA, we have Mike Carmen. In second place, shooting a 166, we have Chris Vila from Norristown, PA. In third place, shooting a 167, we have Devin Frederick from Hellertown, PA. And rounding out the group in fourth place, we have Robert Vilecki from Pompton Lakes, New Jersey, shooting a 175. Well, that is some diverse talent we are about to see, with Devin's experience and Rob's being rather new to playing in the Open Division. We're going to take a quick break before we start round 4, so don't go away, we'll be right back. And welcome back to the start of the 2018 New Jersey State Championships Disc Golf Tournament. This is the start of the 4th round. Mike Carmen has a 1-stroke lead over Chris Vila with 165. Chris Vila has a 1-stroke lead over Devin with a 166. Devin has a 167. Further back on the card is Rob Vilecki with a 175. We're starting off on basket 1. It's a par 3, 319 feet. Players are looking to do is get it straight down the fairway, and that dark tree off to the right, they're looking to just get it beyond that and turn over and avoiding that tree. There's Chris with his drive. And Chris hits directly off that tree that everyone's trying to avoid. The basket is, you see that split tree further down the fairway. The basket is just to the right of that. Devin does a much better job avoiding that tree. It's going to sit down nicely for him. Here's Rob Vilecki with his first drive. And there you see the basket. Because it's right on the edge of the fairway. He's just going to go with a backhand approach shot. It's going to skip away from the basket. Mike Carmen's approach shot. He's going to go with a flick shot. Just does not get enough turn on that. Rod's putting for 2. He has some vegetation to putt through to get it. And he just gets it a little low. Bounces off the rim and goes out. Chris has to putt back to the basket to get par. He will end up going low. So Devin will at least catch up to Chris if Devin can at least make par. But Devin's got a shot at a birdie here, so Devin may take a 1-stroke lead over Chris and be in sole possession of second place. And he makes it. So after one hole, Devin is already in second place with a 169. He's one stroke behind Mike Carmen, who could only manage a par on that last hole. We're moving on to basket 2. This is a par 4, 599 feet. So you can see this is a straight shot, where as you get further down the fairway, it's going to take a dogleg to the right. Mike almost had the perfect shot. Just kicked off a tree right at the end there, pushed him off the fairway. He's just on the edge of the fairway, but he got really good penetration down the fairway on that drive. Here's Rob. This is looking good.
Yeah, Rob.
And he got clean down the fairway. He missed everything with that drive. That was fantastic. Here's Chris's drive. Just taking the same route that Rob did, and that's working very nicely for him. Devin's going with a sidearm shot to get out of the rough. Mike Carmen is also just off the fairway, and it's about the same area that Devin. His drive landed.
Come out.
He goes with a tomahawk. Poaches with a sidearm shot. Here's Mike playing to the right of all those trees. And that hyzered in for him very nicely. There's Devin putting from the knees. And he just misses. That would have been his second birdie of the round had he made that. There's Mike putting for par. So Chris gets a birdie, the only birdie in the group, and he finds himself tied with Devin with the 173. They're tied at second now. We're moving on to basket 3. This is a par 3, 313 feet. Playing over a little bit of water here. Our goal is to go with a hyzer shot. Just get clean over that pond and have it skip towards the basket. If they could do that, they should all have a good look at it too. Devin goes with a very wide amount of turn. Let's go straight at it, and it doesn't go very far. Once it hits the ground, it didn't skip much, so that's very good for him. Winds are picking up here as we have Rob Valecki with his drive. There's Chris Vila. The winds are really picking up now. And it just stays up long enough to go in the basket. Devin gets his second birdie of the round with that putt. So Rob's also going for birdie. And that's just going to sail right over top of the basket. That's very unfortunate for Rob. He has to play back from almost the same distance. And this one just comes up short, bounces off the rim. He's going to have to settle for a bogey. That's a shame. Mike Carmen also gets a birdie. That's his first birdie of the round. So with Mike making that birdie, he holds on to that one-stroke possession of first place. Chris can only manage a par, so Devin now has sole position of second place with a 175. We're moving on to basket 4. This is a par 4, 698 feet. Devin goes with a relatively straight shot down the fairway. Gets out in that open field. That's what you're looking to do in this hole. Just throw a straight shot. Gets up and then that clear middle hyzer out. I'll put you in a good position to get a placement shot where you could possibly get a 3 on this par 4 layout. And that's a nice skip at the very end for Chris. He'll have a look at a 3 from where he landed. Devin goes with a very high hyzer shot. And he just bounces off that tree that kicked him back away from the basket. That's unfortunate. It's Rob going with a lot of turn on that hyzer shot. He goes beyond the basket. So Devin comes up short. But he gets that up in the air. And he gets that birdie. That's his 3rd birdie of the round. It's going to put the pressure on Mike now. Mike has to get a birdie just to keep that 1-stroke possession for first place. So you see Chris has to putt back. There's Mike. He has to make this. Otherwise, he's going to be tied with Devin. And that just doesn't get enough pressure on those chains. It bounces off the chains, goes out. Rob has to putt back. But he just clears that rim. That's his first birdie of the round for Rob. And so now with Devin getting that birdie, him and Mike are now tied for first place at a 178. Chris drops 2 strokes behind with a 180. As we move on to basket 5, this is a par 3, 390 feet. This is a straight shot. The only thing you have to avoid on this hole is you see those white markers on either side of the fairway. Those are out of bounds. You have to stay between them, otherwise you're out of bounds. So Devin, there's a nice long drive, plays out over the OB, and it skips back for him very nicely right to the edge of the basket. Here's Rob with his drive. Rob doesn't get as much turn on that as Devin did, and that's looking dangerously close to the OB. That may have went out of bounds. Here's Mike with his drive. It's going to skip back nicely for Mike. He should be laying right underneath the basket. That was a fantastic drive. Here's Chris with his drive.
I'll take our improvements, though. Yeah, much better.
Here's Rob with his inbound shot. Right at the edge of the basket, so he'll get a circle 4 with that. That's an unfortunate. His disc went out of bounds on his drive. Here's Chris with his putt. He gets out a little low and just fades off to the right for the basket. Here's Mikey, came up a little bit short. He gets enough on that, and he records his 2nd birdie of the round. And Devin gets a birdie as well, as they remain tied at 180. Chris is now 3 strokes behind the two of them with a 183. We're moving on to basket 6. This is a par 4, 571 feet. This shot, you just have to keep it. You have to try to avoid all that tree line that you see off to the left. And as you make it down the fairway, there's some grouping of trees in front of the an elevated pin position. It's Mike with his drive. So players are just going to have to get down that fairway enough where they're going to be able to make an approach shot, which is going to enable them to get up on that hill and be able to, or at least in position to be able to make that a safe putt and keep them from any rollaways with that elevated pin position on that mound that you see. Devin was coasting right at that mound, but it kicked off that tree, pushed him to the edge with the mound. There's Rob with his second shot. He got the longest drive out of the group. Mike has an interesting position here. Mike gets right at the edge of the basket. Does a fantastic approach shot. He'll get an easy par from there.
Nice putt.
Rob comes up with an amazing putt to save par. So Devin and Mike are still tied at 184. As we move on to basket 7, that's the par 3, 300 feet. Chris drops back to 5 strokes behind Devin and Mike, and Devin putts. There's a little bit of water to contend with on this hole. We can't see it yet. Here's Chris with his drive. She's going to go with a shot. It's going to hyzer out into that rough off to the right.
There's a drop zone for the drive.
He's going to have to play out of the rough to get back to the basket. It's going to be a tough approach shot. And that will work for him. Rob overdrove the basket. He has to play back. And that was a dangerous, very risky putt approach shot. Almost went into the water for Obey. Here's Devin. He's putting for 2. Just comes down a little too early. Mike's trying to get 1 stroke back from Devin so he can get that lead all to himself again. Here's Rob. And Rob just gets out a little too high, a little too much on that, bounces off the top of the rim, knocks it back out. Winds are really picking up here. You see the chains are moving. That doesn't keep Mike from getting his par putt. As Devin and Mike remain tied at a 187. As we move on to basket 8, this is a par 4, 411 feet. This is a relatively straight shot. You got to make it relatively far down the fairway, and then it'll take a dog leg left. Mike kept that nice straight and low, and he got a nice skip at the end. Chris gets a little too much turn off that, and he kicks off a tree early. And kicked him off to the left side of the fairway. Here's Rob with his drive. Keeps that nice and low, but it still manages to kick off the tree off to the left, and it pushes it off to the right side of the fairway. Here's Chris with his approach shot. He makes that right through, and he'll have a look at a putt for 3 from there. Mike with his second shot. He just lets go of that. Looked like he let go of that a little too late.
Right now.
There's Devin. He's putting for birdie. And he makes it. That's for his 5th birdie of the round. Just puts the pressure on Mike. Mike has to respond with a birdie here. Rob with his putt. And he makes it. That's his 2nd birdie of the round.
That's distracting.
Here's Mike. He needs to make this putt to stay tied with Devin. He just gets out a little too high, kicks off the top of the basket. Chris Vila also gets a birdie. That's his 2nd of the round. Mike has to settle for par. So now Devin is once again back in sole possession of first place with a 190, and Mike's right behind with a 191. We're moving on to basket 9. This is a par 3, 301 feet. This is laid out. You got to go down the fairway about 50 to 100 feet, and then when you, at that point, you either have a turnover shot, you go to the right. Basket's on a slight dog leg off to the right.
No! You should have said yes sooner.
Maybe.
Chris gets a little too much turn on that too soon. It turns over a little too soon for him. Doesn't get down the fairway before it kicks off a tree.
The other guy didn't say yes.
Also has his disc turned too early.
Got it.
There's Mike. Mike had an unfortunate, that was looking really good as it got down the fairway, but it just didn't get on the right path. Went straight at that grouping of trees, and it kicked off that first tree ahead.
It's a tough rule to get used to.
He's going to have to play out of the rough now. Mike really needs to get back into this to get that stroke back. He kicks off more trees. So it's looking as though Devin may pick up another stroke on Mike with that great approach shot. There's Mike putting for 4 for bogey. He makes it. If Devin can make this putt, he's going to have a 2-stroke lead over Mike with a 193. Then he makes it. Tough hole. There was the only one who made par on that hole. Everyone else bogeyed it. As we move on to basket 10, this is a par 3, 257 feet. This is more or less just a straight shot with some trees to contend with in the middle of the fairway. You see that one just a half up ahead. Devin clears that tree. Hyzer's off to the right, or left rather. There's Chris, his drive.
Oh!
Chris goes right at that tree. And Rob just misses that tree. He gets good penetration down the fairway, but it hires it out a little bit to the left for him. He'll have a look at it too, though. There's Mike looking to get back in this. Mike just unfortunately kicks off that tree like Chris did. But he kicked off the edge of it, so that gave him some forward progress, even though that did push him out into the rough pretty deep. We'll have to see how we can play out of that. Looks like Chris did a good job getting out of the rough. And Mike's going with a sidearm shot, and it just doesn't look like it got him out all the way. We'll have to see if he has a look at a putt from there. Devin putting from the knees for a 2. And that just stays in the air just long enough. He gets a 6. I'm sorry, that's his 6th birdie of the round, rather. He gets a 2. Mike has to settle for a 3. So now Devin has a 3-stroke lead over Mike with that birdie. That's his 6th birdie of the round. As we move on to basket 11, this is a par 5, 775 feet. This is definitely the most challenging hole in the course. This is a long hole that just snakes its way up the fairway, just snakes its way up to the basket. Looks like everybody in the group's struggling with these early trees. They're kicking off, knocking them off the fairway. Looks like Rob's the only one that had a clean drive. Everyone has to play out of the rough from here. Everyone else, rather. Looks like Devin's going to go with a Anheuser shot from here to try to get out of that. But it fades out, and he's going to go on the other side of the fairway now in the rough.
Good shot.
Rob takes a very long Anheuser shot. That worked very nice for him. There's Mike playing out of the rough. And Devin gets out of the rough and stays on the fairway. That was an excellent throw.
Come on.
Chris gets cleanly down the fairway. Rob with his 3rd throw. And Mike has to settle for an unfortunate double bogey on this hole. This hole hasn't been kind to anyone on this group. And Devin records a birdie, rather a bogey. No birdies on this card for this hole. Chris Vila, the only one who managed to shoot par. As we move on to basket 12, this is a par 3, 243 feet. This is a hole that has some uphill elevation. The basket's off to the left. Devin got really great elevation, but he kicked off a tree. We'll see if that got him up the hill high enough we can have a look at a birdie. Here's Rob with his drive.
Oh yeah.
Rob gets up there cleanly with a nice skip at the end. Mike with his drive. Mike's now
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
chasing Devin by 4 strokes. Mike's got to get those 4 strokes back.
Oh no.
Rob makes a birdie. It's his 3rd of the round. Devin also shoots a birdie. That's Devin's 7th birdie of the round. Mike also makes a birdie. It's his 3rd of the round. So Mike continues to be 4 strokes behind Devin with a 207. As we move on to basket 13, this is a par 3, 209 feet. So you can see this is a downhill shot with the basket off to the right. Devin's going with a sidearm shot, and that leaves the fairway a little too early. We'll see if that got through enough penetration. We'll have a look at it too. Rob's also going the sidearm. Got a little more turn on that, but he kicked off that tree. So everybody's going sidearm. Mike unfortunately just does not get enough turn. He kicks off that tree. He didn't get much forward progress after he hit that tree. He hit it pretty much dead center. Chris is the only one going with a backhand. Just going with a sidearm to try to get out of that and get to the basket. Chris went right at that. I would have thought he would have went with an Anheuser shot to try to play around that, but he went straight at it. There's Devin. Devin keeps that in the air long enough to get his 8th birdie of the round. So he will now have a 5-stroke lead over Mike, as Mike has to settle for par with that unfortunate. Mike's having a lot of problems here off the tee, hitting a lot of early wood. So we're moving on to basket 14. This is a par 3, 287 feet. So we're playing back uphill again on this shot. That one's going to go with a sidearm. He's going to try and turn it over and have it fade back at the end towards the basket. Looks like it hit a tree at the very end. We'll have to see where that put him. It looked like it got him up the hill. Rob's going with a backhand. See if he gets a good skip. Looks like he got fairly up the hill. Mike's taking the same approach Devin with a sidearm shot that's going to turn it over, have it fade back. Looks like that's up the hill. Chris going to Rob. Let's go with a backhand. Gets a little too much turn there. He's going to hit an early tree. He's at the bottom of the hill pretty much. So he goes with an Anheuser approach shot. That puts him, have a look at a putt from there. Here's Devin. And that just stays in for Devin's 9th birdie of the round. Mike Harmon also gets a birdie. So we still have a 5-stroke lead between Mike and Devin. We move on to basket 15. It's a par 4, 831 feet. This hole starts off very technical. You have to get through that chute and out into that field. And Devin gets a little too much. It just fades too much and he kicks off. He did look like he got a little bit of forward progress. He'll be at the very end of that wooded area. There's Rod.
Yeah, that's
He also goes off the fairway a little too soon and kicks off a tree, but he gets some forward progress. He should also be at the edge of the where the woods come to an end. Mike gets straight down, good penetration. It looks like this is going to be a great opportunity for Mike to get some of those strokes back with that really great drive off the tee. Chris also gets a great drive straight down the middle. There's not many holes left. Mike really got to use whatever opportunity he can to get those strokes back. Devin just throws a long bomb.
Yeah, boy.
Rob had to be careful of that branch that was right in front of him. But he still managed to get a decent amount of distance off that second drive. There's Chris with his second throw. Players have to be careful as they approach the basket. It goes back into the woods, and it's the basket's position on the side of a hill. Players have to be careful of rollaways as they approach and putt. And you see the basket right there. You see the winds are picking up now. Devin hits the ground early, but gets a good skip, and that gets him pretty far down the fairway. Here's Chris shooting for birdie. He gets that a little too high. Here's Mike. Mike's going to record a par here. He's going to get one stroke back as Devin, with that unfortunate drive, records a bogey on this hole. So it's a 4-stroke difference now between Devin and Mike. As we move on to basket 16, this is a par 4, 545 feet. This is a relatively straight shot. It's just there's OB on either side. You'll see the white markers on either side of the fairway. Players have to keep their drives between that. Mike plays out over the OB. It comes back in bounds. Came bounds very nicely. There's Chris. He's going out over the OB. It's coming, and he just got back inside. Those out of bounds markers almost pushed him back out of bounds. that he managed to come back in. There's Devin with his drive. Keeps it low with that skip. That puts him in the center of the fairway. The winds are really picking up now. This looks like it's a headwind, and Rob has to play right into this. And the wind's just going to grab that disc. It's going to turn that over on him. Didn't have a chance to stay in bounds, unfortunately. Here's his inbound shot. And that's also going to get turned over. It looked like that was going to hyzer back for him, but it just got pulled out and stayed out of bounds. There's Devin with his second shot. At this point, Mike has to do all he can to get all the birdies, and this way he just has to hope Devin makes some mistakes, which is not likely. Devin is really in command of his game here today. Chris with that skip, and he's dangerously close to the OB again. It looks like he stayed in. Chris is putting for a birdie. He just gets that a little too low. And Devin not giving anything back. Reports his 10th birdie of the round. When Rob has to settle for an unfortunate quintuple bogey. That's a circle 9. So Devin gets his 10th birdie of the round. Mike gets his 5th birdie of the round. As we move on to basket 17, it's a par 4, 520 feet. So Devin has a 4-stroke lead with 2 holes to go. It's going to be really tough for Mike to kind of get those strokes back at this point. And once again, he has some control issues off the tee. Hits an early tree, gets knocked down. Devin gets that straight down the fairway with a nice turn. It's going to glide back for him. He kicks off a tree, though. Should be in a good position to, even if he isn't in the rough, he should be in a good position to get out of that. Chris also gets very nicely down the fairway, just gliding straight down. Looks like it may hit something at the end. Rob almost looked like he had the best drive of the group. Looked like he kicked off something at the end. Devin's just, at this point, he just has to lay up. He kicks off that tree at the end, pushes him away from the basket. Wow, Chris just went right around the basket with that shot. Rob, with a gutsy move, plays right through that split in between those trees. Chris putting for birdie. And that just gets too much turn. It's Rob putting for birdie. And that is his 5th birdie of the round. Mike, that's solo for a fortunate bogey. Devin's shooting for his 11th birdie of the round. He makes it, so he's back to even wider lead now over Mike. We have one hole to go. Moving on to our last hole. This is basket 18. It's a par 3, 285 feet.
Pretty close.
Rob does not go on the fairway. Goes through that gap that you see just off to the left of the fairway. Chris takes the exact same route.
Do it.
Oh.
Neither disc seemed as though it hit anything, so looks like that's going to work for them. Mike's also trying to go that route, but he lets go a little early. And there you see the basket off to the left. Rob shooting for birdie. This will be his 6th birdie of the round if he can make this. And it just clears the rim and goes in. Here's Chris shooting for his 3rd birdie of the round. And he just pours that right in. The hyzer's in dead center, chains. Mike records his par. Now we have our champion. Soon to be champion, Devin Frederick. He's about to putt out for his 12th birdie of the round. Woo! And there you have it. There is our 2018 New Jersey State Championships champion, Devin Frederick, finishing with a 220. It's a fantastic finish for Devin. He started the round in 3rd place on the card. It's an amazing comeback for Devin.
It's the only one that, like, I love the hole. It should be, yeah.
There you have it. Devin finishes 7 strokes over Mike Harmon, but Mike does hold off Chris Vila, shooting a 227 with 3 strokes over Chris. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. And there you have it. Devin Frederick lit up the field with an amazing 12 birdies, taking the lead away from Mike well before the back 9. Devin managed to take woods and out of bounds to be in sole possession of 1st place after 8 holes into the round. Mike struggled off the tee with release issues, either letting go too early or too late. It made it difficult to hang onto the lead as Devin managed the course so well he only recorded 2 bogeys, which are on the back 9, but did not affect his lead as he recorded 7 birdies to make up for that. Well, that's all the time we have for this month's show. Join us next month for another edition of Disc Golf Monthly, the show that takes you one step closer to the sport of disc golf.